think
Right.
the scary part with Suno and AI is that it seems like this endless library of like
Mhm.
different ideas and intellectual property. It's just not
Right.
verified of where it came
Right.
from, and no one's getting money. Now, if they
Right.
figure out a
Right.
way to pay the people, I
Yeah.
think less people will have a problem.
Real quick, if you're new here, welcome to the TrevBeats Show. Make sure you subscribe if you want to stick around. And for the regulars, if you ever feel compelled to throw some extra support our way, check out the membership options next to the subscribe button. It's strictly for those who want to help us do more, but your viewership is support enough. Now back to the show.
TrevBeats Show, TrevBeats Show. TrevBeats Show, TrevBeats Show.
Now, today, my guest is a fellow drummer, producer, and an absolute powerhouse who has taken the internet and the music industry by storm. She shared the stage with icons like Beyonce and Fifth Harmony and Willow Smith, but she's also a standalone artist building an incredible brand. Now, you know her and you love her groove. Please welcome Pocket Queen.
Hey, hello. How you doing?
It's cracking. How are you?
I am good. I got some tea.
Yeah,
I'm in
come
a
on.
beautiful house, and I am just zenning out. I
Oh,
am
come
just
on.
chilling out.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's beautiful. That balance is very important. So, man, first of all, thank you very much for coming. And we have known each other, I'd imagine, probably shortly after you got out of Berklee. Yeah? After you graduated, we probably met. Yes?
I believe so. I was
Yeah.
definitely a young whippersnapper for sure. I
And
was out here.
and you know, we got a friend, a mutual bass player friend, my bro, Joe, and Cleveland, and you know, we were at a gathering at a studio. I think it was a holiday party, and then the people were just sitting in, and you were sitting in. And I was like, "Hey, Joe, who's playing drums?" He was like, "Oh, that's Taylor." I said, "Bro, listen to the hi hat. Like the hi hat is something. It's different. This is different, bro." He was like, "What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? You tripping?" I said, "Yo, bro, listen." I know what I'm talking about. This is different. You know what I'm saying? And then look what happened. We got the Pocket Queen. So, you know, it's
Man.
like you went ham. I mean, you just developed a whole brand. You know, I'm watching you on commercial. It's just bananas. It's just amazing. And
Well,
go ahead.
yeah. Nothing. Well, here's the thing. I feel like continuously as the years go by, of course, I will not say that this is not also a byproduct of my own ambition,
Mhm.
but I feel like God has shown me a new level every single year, every single leg of this journey of what it can mean to be a musician and what it can mean to be a drummer. All of the things that I really didn't think were possible, like all of these different things you're saying, like commercials and all of that, it wasn't something I was really aspiring for. It just happened, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
I'm really blown away,
Well, I
honestly.
mean, you put the work in, and then, and ladies and gentlemen, let's go back though. Let's not forget the foundation. You can play drums, so let's not, you know, we can't forget that thing. You're not just out here only surviving off a viral moment, doing 100 takes just to get it
Yeah.
right. You actually can play drums, so that
Yeah.
that's the difference. You know what I'm saying? It's not a hype thing. It's an actual pocket real thing. So, you know, I want to start there. Now, what I didn't know, and I found out in my research, is that you came up in New Orleans. Is that correct?
I did. New Orleans,
Wow.
Louisiana.
So, I mean, being in New Orleans, you're surrounded constantly by just rhythm is all through the culture. You know what I'm saying? So that DNA of New Orleans, like, you know, how did that find its way into your playing, you know, and influence you?
Well, fun fact, I don't know if you're familiar with Alvin Ford Jr.
Sure.
Well, his father was the musical director at the church that I used to attend or my family used to attend
Wow.
back when I used to wear polka dot dresses and the ruffle socks and everything. And so I would be beating on the back of a hymnal book watching Alvin Ford Jr.
Wow.
playing the drums.
Wow.
And his father was the one who gave me the opportunity and switched us out, and I played my first songs at that church, and most of that hi-hat stuff, I know you were talking about the hi-hat. Most of that I picked up from him. That little
Wow.
undersweep thing that I
Yeah.
do and
Yeah.
all of that stuff, that's
Yeah.
very much so where I learned that from. So
Wow.
it was the roots of me learning, or having a foundation in the church, and I think it is, like, there's something to that environment that really automatically brings your musicality to a different level of just understanding composition,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understanding the framework of songs and how they work, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the dynamics, I mean, literal dynamics, sometimes, we in modern gospel playing, maybe there's a little bit to be desired, but as far as the dynamics of a song and the emotion
Mhm,
of music, that's always the best. It's just church and jazz to me are the greatest,
mhm.
ways to learn foundational music skills. I mean, I feel like those are the two genres that really, once you get good in that, you could pretty much do anything else. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah.
So so you go through school and all the things that happen, and then you decided to go to Berklee. Now, how did that happen? What was the transition to Berklee?
Well, in high school, I wasn't even really sure I wanted to be a drummer because, like I said, I had my own limited thinking of what drumming would lead me to, and I was like, "Oh, that means I'll just be on tour, and I don't wanna tour." I always knew that,
Right.
but then, I decided to go to Berklee because I had this hunger to learn about production and songwriting, and I knew that was a contemporary music school that had the tools for me to learn anything I wanted to, so
Right.
that's really where I decided to apply to Berklee. Um, and I had all the plans in the world to stop playing the drums after I graduated.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting.
Mhm,
That happens. We get, and I've said this many times before, it's like we are the only people that outsiders or other people struggle to understand how we can be songwriters and producers. Like you can be a DJ and people will understand it more. Oh, you DJ, oh, you want to produce now? Oh, I get it. But when you're a drummer, it's like, oh, I didn't know you could do music. I thought you just played drums. It's so far-fetched. And it's such a negative stigma that I'm so glad, we have a generation of people, of course, like Quest that did it real big. And you got people like Stanley Randolph winning Grammys with Duran Bernard. I've had my
mhm,
2 cents and you're doing your thing. And
exactly.
Anderson, it's like drummers are it's just another music. It's just another instrument. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah,
I'm glad you're pushing through that because that stigma, it does, and it even almost caused you to stop doing it. It's like, it's
mhm,
a crazy thing that
mhm.
happens? It's like,
Yeah, and even if you really think about it, some of the greatest producers of it, period,
yep,
started out on the drums.
come
I
on.
think it is the foundational one of the foundational instruments of music, and I love it because it does give you room to appreciate everything that is going on in the band. As far as like there's a lot of analyzation going on when I'm playing, not just of my part, but just like everything, the chords, the parts of which I can accent, and so it makes all the sense in the world that some of the best composers and best producers are also foundationally drummers.
Absolutely, and I
It's
forgot a big
yeah.
one. Yeah, there's no How Will I Know without Narada Michael Walden, who
Mm,
also played with Mahavishnu, so he's a real one. It's not
mhm.
a game, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, and Shaka herself, I mean, not that she sang that
She's
song,
yep,
but Shaka's a drummer. It's like, come on, y'all, stop
absolutely.
playing.
It's all in her, it's all in her writing, her songwriting, like, the way
Right.
it's rhythmic, I'm not the da 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 in the morning.
Yeah, oh
Like, she
yeah.
has, like, so much syncopation.
Yep,
Obviously a
exactly.
drummer, yeah.
Yeah, oh, and that record is actually one of my foundational records. I used to practice that whole record every day. That's the greatest. I give Arif all his props because that's a genius record. That
That is so good. I was literally just talking about it yet last night of,
yeah,
like, I think Stevie Wonder is my favorite artist of all time, but
of
I would
course.
say I would put Shaka
Oh,
2nd.
that record, y'all, if
2nd.
you don't know that We Can Work It Out record, listen. I
Mhm.
mean, the pitch, the range, the cast that Arif Mardin put together from,
So
Bernard
good.
Purdy to having Dizzy and George Duke and Herbie and Greg Phillips, it's Anthony Jackson. It is a genius record,
It's so
that
good.
just falls in the cracks. So there you go. So well, now I know you coming up with the right information. That's how, that's what happens,
Trying to do my homework, have a
Yeah.
good foundation.
So you've built your whole moniker and everything around the pocket, right? When in a time that
Mhm.
everything was kind of moving to chops, 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 you said, I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna put pocket first, right? So for the listeners who, might just be music fans and they're not really musicians, like how do you define what it feels like to truly be in the pocket? Like what is the pocket actually for people that aren't musicians?
Okay, let me see if I can okay. Well, how it feels, like, there's really no feeling like it when you're really locked in and locked into a band and groove, and what I would like to clarify is, like, people really believe or they have an idea of the pocket being just about the metronome and being just, like,
Mhm.
in sync and quantized and in time. When it's so much more than that, it's like the way the music breathes. It's the whole feel of, like, why you move a certain way to a song. And the way that I generally try to explain it for people who are not musicians is, like, pocket is a universal term. Like, when you watch football, the person who's like, "Oh, you listen, I don't really watch sports," but the person who's, like, running down the field or something like that, they say that they're in a pocket, right? And that has to do with being in the right place at the
Right,
right time. And so
right.
that's what I really try to explain it as, like, being in sync and being in motion, like, fitting in the right place at the right time, being in the pocket.
That's right. That makes sense. Now, and that pocket ties into my next question, which is there's like on this show, we have a core philosophy that we talk about a lot, which is serve the song, right? And,
Yeah.
facility is one thing, but how do you balance showcasing and listen, you have the chops. So it's not like you can only play pocket, but you got plenty technical, incredible chops that you have at your disposal. But how do you balance those chops, with locking into the groove that's the right thing for the song? Like, how do you balance that? How do you go into that mentally and not overplay?
Well, yeah, for me personally, chops are well, I would say the song or the composition really informs the type of chop that is needed. A lot of times, this is just me personally, I don't have the instinct to chop unless the song is calling for that in the moment or it needs like a acceleration of energy. There needs to be a burst or something that adds to the moment. Otherwise, like, it's not something you gonna just, like, catch me doing for no reason, you
Mhm.
know? So,
Mhm.
I think it is just literally a tool to me. It is one of those sort of things you pull out when you need to and you put it back. It's not the main thing,
Mhm.
because, yeah, the melody is the main thing, the song is the main thing. So
Mm.
that all informs the latter, everything else that is thrown in there.
Hold on, you said what'd you say? The melody and say that one more time?
The melody. The song.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
sometimes we forget and, it just seems like it's a weird, sometimes I feel like it's like, man, it's a drum solo that happens to have some words being sung. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yes.
even I see people posting sessions. I'm like, man, you playing all that on a record? It's like, yo, you know, in my day, it's like, I mean, and still in the circles I run in, it's like, man, we trying to make records. We not trying to all that, would be get out of here. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, I
hey,
actually used to really laugh back in the day when I was at Berklee. It used to be a little cackling moment to me that we would, like, invite a bass player most of the time to these sheds, and
mhm.
I would feel so sorry for them because, like, no one knew what they were doing. You can't even hear it. They might as well just be going, ooh, ooh. I'm like, can't
Yeah,
nobody hear you, bro. Like, because
yeah,
everybody's just doing, and I'm
yeah,
like, I don't know. It don't matter. We're just trying to
yeah,
have some sort of musical thing going on here to have an excuse to chop back
yeah,
and forth.
yeah. That's right. And that, and I will say, I didn't really come up in church, so I came up on the jazz side. So I didn't come up with the shed vibe. I didn't really have that, right? I may have been to
Mhm.
one or two in my life, and one of them was actually documented. I found out, like myself, Nissan, like Jamie Gamble, all these people in the '90s in Nissan's church basement, Gordon Campbell, all these people. That may have been one of the only sheds I've ever been a part of. But I do like that steel sharpened steel mentality.
Yes.
But you know, it also becomes kind of I is it steel sharpening steel or is it a horse race? You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
what is it? You know what I'm saying? Like who's
Mhm.
gonna be fastest today? That seems like to be the prevailing undercurrent. But I do,
Yeah.
I think it does, it can level you up. I was talking to another guest about the whole gospel chops era, and there's something to be said about it. But now
Mhm.
let's talk a little bit about production. So as drummers, first, I firmly believe in something that I call the 360 principle. And it's like just expanding beyond the drum throne. So if you play drums, you're going to be a writer, you're going to record, just doing all the other things, right? And my thing
Yeah.
is, if I meet somebody one way, I want to do all three things with them. So that's why I say 360, right? So
Mhm.
how has taking control of your own production and, the stuff that you're creating changed the trajectory of your career? Because you're now not just in the side person mentality. How has that
Mm.
changed everything for you?
I think it has given people a better idea of my creativity. It
Mhm,
has brought up the leverage in a lot of different situations, and yeah, I think it's just given me more of a voice, more of a calling card, and made it even more of a clearer distinction of like what I specialize in or what who I am. I think that's
mhm,
really what it is.
mhm,
Um, I noticed there was a definite shift in my career after releasing my first EP.
mhm.
I believe the landscape got completely different. The brand deals got different. Um, and I think it's just because the brand also gets stronger. Your brand gets stronger the more that you have more identity out there surrounding it, like who you are, all of the things that you're capable of, even like investing in the look and the visuals and all of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'll say that, you were definitely you were someone that broke through virally and in this modern age of social media and just
Mhm.
listen what I'm telling you people so you don't be in the comments talking crazy. This modern age. I didn't say you started posting drums on social media. In this modern
Mhm.
age, right? You were one of the pioneers of translating real drumming, like elite level drumming into engaging social media that even non-drummers could grasp and could get and wanted to watch. So what was
Mhm.
the turning point where you realized your online videos, not only could be helpful for drummers, but it literally could become the business that we're just talking about? Like when did that aha moment happen? Like, hold on, I could flip this into a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? Let me know that
Mhm.
thought process.
Well, I have always, ever since the first video that took off, I always had this hope of being able to change how companies looked at musicians, and that included drum companies and different music companies. I wanted to broaden the landscape, like I said, of like, oh, you're a drummer, so that means that you're gonna get a drum endorsement and a
Right.
stick endorsement, and you're gonna be happy with that, But it was like, no, I think that if I remember I used to think things like if Michael Jordan can be on a Wheaties box, I don't understand why a drummer can't also do the exact same thing, like build a
Yeah.
brand that is that strong. So I think it was always a subconscious idea to really reach for the stars when it came to, like, what I was trying to break through as, and that was even, a method that I chose behind the type of content that I posted, which is like, there's like a universal appeal around it, you know, like
Yeah.
things that are family friendly. I choose songs that are nostalgic to me, that are personal to me, that I love, and it so happens that it really resonates with other people as well. Um, and when I think of the word like social media, I look at it as really a social gathering place, and my videos are just a place where people gather and exchange information with each other. So I have to create like a platform for that to happen on many different levels, if that makes any sense, you know?
Yeah.
So once you're
Yeah.
doing that, I think there is ability to be crossover and to break into many different fields, you know, and then also with me being a
Yeah.
woman of color, and that being like a thing that was at the time a little more rare. I think there's more now, but it was like more of a rarity to see, you know, people talking about my natural hair, the
Right.
smile, and all of that. These are all universal things that people love, even besides just the music. So I think
Right.
I knew early on it was something that could potentially break through to more than just drummers.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, as far as, you standing on being a woman of color, there still aren't that many. I mean, as far as just in general, I mean, you could count on one hand. You got Cindy Blackman, Sheila E., Camille
Mhm,
Gaynor, yourself. There's a few others, but as far as
mhm,
Terry Lynn Carrington, of course, but
mhm,
it's not a huge amount. So you had to also kind of overcome some things to be courageous enough to do that. And I'm so happy you did that because it just
mhm,
broke all that down. And people was like, hey, we love this lady, we love her content, we're rocking with her, which is super dope
mhm,
to see. You know what I'm saying? When you see that
mm.
happen from the beginning, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, and
So
I'm so grateful for that. There's people like you who have been watching me for like decades now,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't really take that for granted. The people who have rode with me through this whole
yeah.
ride and are still riding.
Yeah, no, listen, it's beautiful to see that engagement, and listen, better late than never. I'm really dialing in my social media world and learning quite a bit, in this last year about it because
Mhm.
obviously, I already had a career before it started, but
Yep.
the initial thing was, people of my age were pushing it back, and we don't need that, and then I got out of that mindset years ago, but then I started saying, you know what, I really want to dial in what's actually happening, behind the scenes here and what is really causing all these things. Because at first, when you're looking, you think of it just like a record. Like there's a lot of people that think that records come out and then all of a sudden they're just the biggest record in the world because people like it.
Mhm.
And that has
Yeah.
never been the case ever.
Yeah.
Right. So so everything was planned and you were funneled into the record being as successful as it is. And sometimes it was going to be that successful regardless if you liked it, but we didn't know that. We didn't think of it like that. So,
Mhm.
well, hence a lot of the one-hit wonders. So,
Yeah.
right. So, I just think that it's amazing, that you first learn the science of it because there's definitely something to learn to be successful with social media like you were. And, when you mix that with actual foundation and real talent and then being affable, you get me turning on the TV and seeing you on the commercial. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
that's that's fire. Now you have toured though, so let's not belittle that. You shared the stage with some pretty huge names, especially
Mhm.
the big one, Beyonce. So,
Mhm.
what's the biggest lesson you took away from, being at that moment at the top tier? I mean, once you're played with her, you've pretty much hit the pinnacle of pop and R&B. So what did it feel like doing that?
I would say that experience really was the moment where it fed into the idea of me becoming an artist, because she taught me intentionality, you know? Like, when you're really behind the scenes and you see all of the people in place that make sure that she looks a certain way and that the audience feels a certain way during a certain moment, I was like, Oh, like, because from the TV screen or from, like, the audience, it just kinda looks like, "Wow, that just happened, like, how?" You know? But it's
Right.
like, no, like, when you go to the rehearsals, it's like, "She planned that.
Yeah.
So that means I could plan this." You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Right.
I could really have a vision of what I want people to feel, and even when that comes to my content, that was something that I early on implemented of, like, I want this to be a moment, so I'm gonna plan for the moment. I'm gonna, like, actually, like, make the whole feeling happen, like, and it became very, intriguing to me and exciting,
Yeah.
to be able to tap into the visual artistry the way that she did. So I think every single artist, not even just her, but everybody, like Willow, Harry Styles, they
Mhm,
all taught me something about artistry
mhm.
and the important elements that need to be there for the audience to feel a part of your journey rather than they're just witnessing it, you know?
Yeah. And that's another person I have to say, that we've all kinda been able to, follow, which is Willow Smith, and I'm really very, very proud, and I respect where she went. You know what I'm saying? Because
Uh-huh.
she really went into it. It's not a game. She learned stuff.
It's
She learned
definitely not
skills.
a
Yeah,
game.
it's like she really, and when you're coming up in an environment like that where there's just so much stuff going on, it's like she was like, you know what? I'm about to really get a foundation and really be a real one. And I really respect her, and I love the records she's putting out and the chances that she's taking. So, kudos to her. And that's just another example of really getting the foundation right, and then the other stuff will follow. You know what I'm saying? And with her, you can't take anything away from her because she can just flat foot sit there and do it. It's not smoking, it's
Mhm.
it's not smoking mirrors. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
Absolutely,
that's fire. That,
absolutely.
that that's fire.
Yeah.
I still have to scratch my head sometimes when I'm counting, like, oh, hold on. Wait a second. Hold on now.
Yes, she is so free with her artistic journey, and it's something that
Yeah.
even to this day still inspires me, and
Yeah.
even the way that that happened, when she dropped this album, Coping Mechanism, which was complete rock, just straight
Mhm.
up rock, and what people don't know about me yet is that I am a rockhead, so
Mm, mhm.
when she dropped this album, I was just, like, so blown away that I looked up who produced it, and his name is Chris Griotti, and I sent him a message, and I'm just like, "Y'all are doing something different right now, and I want in." You know?
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
"I just whatever it is, I don't even care, just call me, like, I'm coming and I'm playing." You know? And
Yeah.
so that's really how this whole thing happened, like,
Yeah.
me, playing drums on her last album and then touring with her was just out of pure being inspired by what she was doing, and it's
Yeah.
been amazing to watch her grow and even see where she's going because she's just so limitless at this point, like, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right, and, that whole album and all those songs, it's just y'all had a real thing going on, and, listen, it's just great, it's just great, it's a great period that we'll be able to go back to and see, you know what I'm saying? So, um, since we are drummers and we do have a lot of drum followers, let's talk gear for a second, because
Okay.
people are gonna be, "You ain't talking about drums at all." Okay, listen. All right, y'all. This for y'all. We're gonna talk about gear because we all want to
Oh.
know. So,
Mhm.
tell me what you're playing right now, and and then we'll get into a little bit more. But what companies are you rocking with right now?
Currently, I am rocking with Tama on the drum front. I
Okay.
am playing a Ubinga Birch Star Classic kit. It is beyond my favorite kit in the whole entire world, and it's gold chrome. I love gold. I'm
Hmm.
like Ours Gold member. Anyway, I also am playing Vater, my own signature stick, which is out with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Um, that is also gold because
Shout
I
out to
love gold.
Chad. Yeah, come on. That's the
Up to
Vader's
Chad
family.
Brandolini.
Yeah, the Vader's family
Whoop,
now. Let's go. Come
whoop.
on.
Meow, meow,
And
meow,
what
meow.
else?
For cymbals, I am playing Paiste,
Oh,
the
okay.
Master Series.
Nice.
Um, yeah, that's that. Uh, and what else? What else?
Heads,
That's
heads,
it. Oh,
heads.
Evans.
Okay.
Evans drumheads.
There's usually a link when Evans and Tama, there's that whole link a lot of times. I noticed that there's a
Yeah,
kinda
yeah.
connection there. That's cool.
I only like to talk gear. I don't normally talk gear a lot, but I have,
Okay.
like, my select friends that I talk
Well,
gear with,
appreciate it.
and,
Appreciate it.
I have a friend named Wayne Doc Matthews, or he goes
Okay.
by Waves now, and we
Okay.
talk about gear, and we have, like, these discussions, like, Remo,
Mhm.
Evans, all this
Mhm.
whole thing,
Well,
and, of course, I'm on the Evans side
yeah,
because
I mean, in that discussion, I'll say this, and I just did this on a post. It's all about taste. Everything is all about taste, right? So
Mhm,
it just is what it is. But if we're talking about a matter of, you know, certain things, Remo's the only company that has the exclusive to the DuPont fiber for the first. Every other company has to
mhm,
deal with seconds with the film. Now, it doesn't mean any less than or whatever, but the facts are that's something that's been set in stone. So I think that when it comes to as far as like the preference, I think that if
mhm.
you know how to tune drums and you know how to play drums and you have a decent set of drums, I don't think anybody in this world is gonna listen to a record and tell you exactly what drum heads it is, right? So or
Mm.
cymbals or drums. So all of the talk that we do, all the talk that we do, it's cool, it's fun, but nobody's that good. I mean, yeah, the jazz cats, you can know who was playing by their ride cymbal sound a lot of times and their phrasing, but still
Mhm,
then you'd be hard pressed. Everybody didn't play Gretsch. Everybody didn't play, Ludwig. So I think that, the gear conversation is very personal and it's okay to like different things. We don't have to beat someone up because they don't like what we like. You know what I mean?
mm. That's
So
real, and Imma be real with you, everybody watching. I can't tune them Remo heads. There's a whole science to them things that I don't understand. I need me a drum tech. I was like, I
well,
don't understand, straight
yeah,
up.
it's a thing. And my company, my drum company DW a few years back, came out with these ultra fine screws. So it's like 4 times the thread. So if you don't have a
Mm,
drill, you're gonna be turning for a long time. So on my latest kits, out of the latest kits I have made, including this one behind me, I literally requested the old thread because it just makes
mm,
life a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? So
mhm.
now, okay, I usually do a segment that talks about the elephant in the room being AI. I don't think that conversation is as far fetched as it was when I started this show. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, I think the elephant part, I think we're gonna say RIP to the elephant. The elephant is gone. He's gone.
Is this the
So yeah, no more elephant. So we're gonna talk about AI, but no more elephant in the room segment. I gotta just
Mhm.
officially put it to rest because I did it on every show and it was funny and all that, but I don't think AI is that crazy to talk about now. So we're just gonna talk about it because it's not going anywhere. It's part of the workflow. So what's your take on AI? Like what do you think about AI and music, non-music? Like how do you view it?
Well, just similarly to what you said, like throughout history, throughout the decades, there have been advances in technology that initially we were very afraid of
Mm,
and we were nervous about. We're two drummers still sitting here today who have made amazing careers for ourselves, despite there being drum machines, despite there being all of these other different things. We found new mediums to even break through and make people interested in learning the craft, learning drums. So I feel like it's the same thing with this whole thing with AI of like, of course, there's a way to abuse it, like with anything, and we just hope that people don't abuse it,
right.
but it can be used as an amazing tool if you let it be. I'm not a real avid Suno user or a supporter, but I have recently been onboarded to Moises, which is something that
Yeah.
I use a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I've used for content actually in the past of like stripping drums from songs and having
Hmm.
different parts like turned up in the mix. And people would often ask me like, how did you get that mix to sound that way? And it's because I have more control over the mixing stems
Oh
that
yeah.
Moises gives me. So that's even like a a way in which I have found it very beneficial and that I use it not in a generative way, but
Right,
in a
right.
way that is a tool that makes the workflow flow way less tedious.
Yeah, shout out to Moises. I've been using them since the beginning too, and it's really, really helpful, especially when you're trying to learn stuff. And I've
Mhm.
used it, so many different ways too. It's pretty amazing, actually. So shout out to
Yeah.
them. But now you said not in a generative way. I get that. But the funny thing, I get people in these comments, they just start ranting about AI, and it's like, dude, you're using it on the device that you're putting this comment up with. Like, it's everywhere. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, I think that we have to just realize it's not going anywhere. I don't think it's going to replace us, just like you just said. I don't believe that. I think
Mhm.
it does good at taking what has been done and synthesizing it, and it can have that as a reference and do some pretty cool things, but it can't do the next thing, and it can't do anything in the moment. So for that reason, I
Mhm.
think we're always going to be safe. You know what I mean? So, um,
Yeah. Especially if you know music, you
right,
know?
right.
Like, I really I'm an optimist at heart,
Hmm.
so I hope that this creates a scenario where it forces people to really do their homework to the point where a machine can't really come up with the ideas that you're coming up with. It forces you to be more creative.
Yeah,
And that's even what it has done for me as I've listened to some of the things that Suno has done. And I'm like, that kind of sounds like a pop record. That sounds
right,
like something that could just be spinning on the radio.
right.
But that is also creating like what is it, a normalcy to that type of quality and sound that it almost sounds generic.
Yeah,
So I think it'll bring down the value of that type of music and it will become more valuable when you run into someone who is like really pushing boundaries.
yeah,
So I hope it brings back like a different level of musicianship and then also like live entertainment,
yeah,
like
yeah.
because anybody can put in a prompt and be like, "Hey, make me this and that," but when it comes to performing it, I think you're in trouble if
Yeah.
you
And also,
can't do
yeah,
it.
and that to me is the most nefarious use case, right? Which is just pure
Mhm.
prompting 100%. I think the real issue with the generative AI is the vocal side. I think that's the biggest infringement issue because if
Mhm.
we're taking away the process, then we have to look at it differently on the music side. And let me explain. So we've now existed for years with, sampling and then also the plugins that have libraries and loops and, Apple loops that have every type of thing from synths to whatever that have been used everywhere. Movies, TV, film, you have Splice, all that. You have Output, Arcade, all these things that have kind of pre-made stems and musical bits in them that we've been using in production. So
Mhm.
if we're taking out the process, I believe that generative AI on the music side may even be a little bit better than that because you have the ability to put something in it and let it synthesize it and manipulate something you put in. These other things, we're just dragging down what someone else did and using it in our work. But with something like a
Mhm.
Suno, you could put an idea in it or a beatbox or hum a melody or play a drum loop and it can do something with stuff you put in. So
Yeah.
we get caught up on it, and I understand, and I definitely think the infringement part on the vocal, trying to sound like somebody, no go, or taking a whole record and just prompting it, no go. But
Mhm.
I feel like that balance is going to happen naturally over the years when people start realizing, like, well, it's kind of the same if I'm just pulling the splice loop. I mean, it's almost the same thing at the end of the day. But there's
Pretty
this
much.
huge stigma right now where it's like, oh my God, you can't do that. And one day people are gonna wake up, and those same people, by the way, that are saying that are, drag and dropping from all these places where they're
Mhm.
like, I hate AI.
Yeah, I think everyone's fear is, like, the intellectual property piece and, like, the
Yeah,
money aspect of it. Like, even
yeah,
with Splice, right?
yeah,
I think the people who put up those loop packs to be
yeah,
used, at the very least, I hope they were paid something upfront or, they at least know that it's being used and it's a part of their pack. I think
Right.
the scary part with Suno and AI is that it seems like this endless library of like different ideas and intellectual property that could go it's just not
Right.
verified of where it came
Right.
from, and no one's getting money. Now, if they
Right.
figure out a
Right.
way to pay the people, I
Yeah.
think less people will have a problem. Like they'd be
Right.
like, well, go ahead.
And you know what? No, you're right. And I will speak to the Splice thing. I mean, you know, it's I've done business with them. I have 2 packs, and it's all everything's on the level and up, and the business has actually been really good. But
Mhm.
but I think what you just said may be the biggest part of this whole thing, because I think that's the reason there is a fight at all. Because the
Yes.
people that hold all these masters are like, oh, we'd have to pay everybody. We'd have to pay all
Exactly.
these artists. It's not for preserving the integrity. It's not for none of that.
It's
It's like,
money.
yeah. So that's what this thing is really about. And if you notice, a few months back, there was the whole lawsuit. There was a few lawsuits, and a couple of them got settled. So it was like all these lawsuits, but then they turn into partnerships. So, you know, it's like, I think the lawsuits are just to stall while we get the business done. And then it's going to be
Exactly.
okay. So, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to see what happens on that front, because it's changing every day. Just like AI itself, you know, and these platforms are changing literally weekly. You know, everybody's competing, and now chat has the better pictures than Nano Banana, but a couple months ago it was the other way around. It's just like nuts right now. And Claude is like,
Yeah.
we're going to just dominate everything, and everything can hook up to Claude, and we can do it all. You know what I mean? So interesting
Yeah.
time we're living in, Taylor. It's
Dude, I'm
crazy.
seeing commercials on TV that are like challenging me to look really close because they're using AI in
Oh,
these
for
commercials
sure.
now. Like
Oh, for
it's
sure.
an all AI commercial. Like
Sure.
there's no
Oh,
real
for sure.
people.
Yeah,
So I'm just like, man.
and there's a show that came on a few years ago called Black Mirror that I used to really watch. And during that last big writer strike on the film side that they had, they actually dropped an episode of Black Mirror with Selma Hayek in it, and it was about the name and likeness being stolen and used with AI, and where they're just taking the mouth and they. So I'm going now. Fast forward a few years later, and I'm a Stubbs A-list member at AMC. So my wife and I
Me
go to the movie.
too.
Yeah, so we go to movies a lot. And that Nicole Kidman thing has taken like 20 different turns with the script. And you can see that it's just being altered. It's like unbelievable. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
it is literally everywhere right now. You know, so we'll see. You know,
Yeah.
we'll see
Yeah,
what
so
happens.
it makes business tricky because
Yeah,
I often think about I'm like, what was that licensing deal like with Nicole Kidman of like
yeah,
being in all of these things? But
yeah,
if you
yeah.
can like have AI manipulated, does she get a renewal of the
Right,
contract?
right.
Like that's where
Yeah,
it becomes weird. Like we're all acting like, oh no, like it's money. Like
yeah,
we want our money and that's cool. Like
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
Run the bread. Yeah. So speaking of that, so between producing and playing and building your brand, you literally have a lot going on. So let's talk about what are some of the next things that we can expect from the Pocket Queen moving forward.
Why, yes, I am working on my debut album, and I'm really excited about it. It is mainly just me. I don't have any features or anything like that. I'm producing the whole thing and songwriting the whole thing, and I feel like um, for me, this album is more so about my story than this like brand that I've created, which I've, over time have transformed from being on like gold and very what's the word, regal, and having all of these different themes. This is just me, and this is
Mm,
just, like, the weird, musician me that I have held back all these years after being told by labels like, "Oh, that's a little too complex. Oh, that's a little bit too much, like, the general public won't get that." This is me just saying, "Screw that." Not completely,
hmm
but in a sense where I can really just be fearless with sharing myself, so
hmm
that's really the main thing I'm working on. There's a few other like partnerships and things like that that are coming and going, and I might have some live performances, but
Mhm.
the main thing I'm doing, and even why I'm hiding out, is working on this album.
That's awesome. Are you in there? Are you going to put it out yourself, or are you aligned with the label, or are you trying to get aligned with the label, or what's your plan as far as distribution? Because that trajectory is changing too now. So what's your
I
take on that?
know it's
Yeah,
just crazy.
yeah.
So I plan on putting out the first 3 singles independently, and
Hmm.
I would say my desire is to stay independent, but
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. We'll
Hmm.
see how that goes because my thing is like even with distribution deals and all of that, publishing deals, all the deals, right? Um I feel like more so I've run into people telling me to do the same thing I'm already doing,
Hmm.
only with a little bit of cash up front, and so I'm just like, I don't really see
Right.
the real purpose in that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I'm open to people or someone changing my perspective on it, of it being necessary, but I
Yeah.
think, independent, yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, as a person that's, done a lot of deals, not as an artist per se, but just been on those other sides and stuff. The real deal is that the word deal is just another word that they said, let's hide the word loan, right? With crazy terms. And the crazy terms come with
Mhm,
control. They come with, um, the ability to stop a career, to shelve someone and kill them in their greatest time, in their greatest years. But in the few cases when the people play ball and they do all the right things and they deal with the people that you're told to deal with, and there's a lot of self-dealing, right? So we have all these networks of things, and sometimes you'll see somebody that plays the game right. That's what it means when people say that, and then
mhm,
they get pushed to superstardom. But right now, what we're seeing with this whole Drake situation, potentially, because no one knows what his deal really is, right? We know he had some
mhm,
deal with Universal. We don't know what the deal is, but potentially, if he ends up going with a private equity company, that there's stories that he's been offered a huge amount of money, that may be the beginning of a whole new way to look at how record labels are valued or needed, because he's the
mhm,
biggest artist at that label. So if he says, I don't need you guys anymore, that is going to be a battery in the back of millions of creatives that are suddenly
yes.
going to be like, if he doesn't need them, I don't need them. And and you know what? Listen, what can they do other than query your fan base and sell to them? Right? So you can do that
Exactly.
yourself. You can do that yourself. You got a massive
Mhm,
network. You're a household name now. You do a project, I don't see somebody else doing any other thing to make it more popping than it's already going to be off of what you created. So
mhm,
I'm going to support you, and I'll make sure that I repost when you put it out and all that kind of stuff, because that's what we need to do with each other to make it so,
absolutely.
we don't have to deal with these big corporations like that. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So,
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenging part also about this time that we're in is like I talk about all the time. I love the story of Motown and
mhm,
how that was all started by a group of individuals who were all in proximity, who had the same vision. But we're living in a time of social media where everybody is so isolated and has their own thing that they're trying to do. And it becomes, instead of there being like people coming together on one accord, it's just everybody doing the same thing separately.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that is definitely an interesting dynamic that we're in. And
yeah,
I definitely hope to be a part of like a something that reflects that time period that I'm talking about with
yep,
Motown.
yep. Well, Taylor, listen, uh, I know you got a lot going on, and I know you're busy. I really appreciate you sitting with us here today. But
Of course.
before we get out of here, one word to the next musician that, and it could be a drummer, maybe not a drummer, the next musician that is now, hey, I have a facility, I have something I want to portray or put out to the world, and I'm a big fan of what Pocket Queen did. What is Pocket Queen telling them right now to do to get it to be successful?
I would say be authentic That's important. And be intentional.
Yeah.
Just really keep those things at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah.
But authenticity has been like a very big part of this entire journey. I feel like when one way or another, whether it would be like a portrayal of an alter ego or anything, it was still very much so me,
Yeah.
and I am being myself. So if you feel deeply about it, you give other people the opportunity to connect with it as well. So yeah, be intentional and be yourself.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure sitting here talking with the very knowledgeable and articulate Miss Taylor Gordon, aka the Pocket Queen. On the
I am
TrevBeats Show.
honored.
So happy you was able to make it. We're looking out. We're gonna be looking forward to everything coming. Everybody also make sure to go follow her on her socials. If you want to shout out your socials, I know everybody knows, but let's just shout it out for the non-musicians.
It is at the Pocket Queen on pretty much everything.
Okay. Bet. And go follow her up and make sure you stay in tune, subscribe where you need to subscribe, and, wait for those new releases. Check out all the many videos that she has out now, and you will definitely become a fan of the Pocket Queen. So once again, thanks a lot for coming down and hanging with us. And I
Thank
look
you.
forward to talking with you again soon.
All right, talk soon, Trevor.
Peace.
Peace.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap for another show. If you're a musician, a producer, or an industry professional trying to move to the next level, this show is built for you. Subscribe so you never miss an update, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it. I'm Trevor Lawrence Jr., and we are out.
It's the TrevBeats Show, and we out. We out. We out. We out. We out. We out. It's the TrevBeats Show, and we out. It's the TrevBeats.